So I'm going to start, and the reason we wanted to include terms and definitions is because when people say refugees, they mean a lot of things. Um, what what we try to limit our terms and definitions to is the populations that we serve as a Common Point Queens resettlement and integration team. So, and that includes refugees, and these are, I'm not going to read out the legal definition, that's just for your background. Basically, this is the person who fits the legal definition in the Immigration and Nationality Act, and has been interviewed by U.S. Immigration Services overseas by the Refugee Corps, and was able to prove that they have experienced or are in danger of future persecution based on one of the 5 eligible categories: race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. So when we say someone arrived as a refugee, that means that they have gone through this legal process. They have gone through very extensive background checks and security checks by multiple national agencies, and they have completed the medical examination and are ready to arrive to this country. Another group of humanitarian migrants that we serve are special immigrant visa holders, and they are primarily nationals from of Afghanistan and Iraq to a lesser degree at this point, who worked with the U.S. Government or U.S. military, and as such qualify for this special status, which gives them permanent residency. They arrive as green card holders, but they're also eligible for all refugee services afforded to people who arrive as refugees. Next slide. A large portion of our caseload are humanitarian parolees, and we're obviously aware of the Afghan refugee crisis and the Ukrainian war that ended up sending thousands of humanitarian refugees to the United States. And again, I said refugees, but strictly speaking, Ukrainians and many Afghans arrive as humanitarian parolees, and that's a temporary status. Although they do not have a permanent status, U.S. government acknowledges that they need a lot of support and afford them of multiple resettlement services that we offer and provide to them. And among humanitarian parolees, in addition to Afghans and Ukrainians, we also serve a lot of Haitian humanitarian parolees. I think we have only served one Cuban parolee, but we have been seeing a lot of Haitian humanitarian parolees arrive here. We help them with many services. Another legal status that we should be aware of is that are served by the Common Point Resettlement and Integration Services is asylees. An asylee is someone who arrived to the United States in a different temporary immigration status and applied for asylum, met the definition of refugee, and proved to the U.S. government that they qualify for refugee status. But since they applied not outside the United States as refugees do, but after having arrived to this country, they are granted asylum. But it's the same 5 grounds of eligibility for status as the refugee, as refugees. it is important to remember that asylum seekers and people who have been bused from the southern border to New York City, that so many people have been volunteering with, are not refugees, and do not qualify for most government programs for refugees, unfortunately. Asylum seekers, people who have applied for asylum, but their application has not been granted yet, are asylum seekers, and we unfortunately do not provide services to them. In this picture, you can see two brothers. They are Ukrainian humanitarian parolees who arrived in the winter, and they're this picture in front of the bunk bed that has been donated to them by Common Point volunteers. Next slide. Okay, thank you. The next term, and it's all it's all as really background information for you. The next term is the resettlement agency. National resettlement agencies are nonprofit organizations that are national in terms of their scope of work. They're funded by U.S. government and through private donations to provide services and assistance to refugees and other humanitarian migrants upon arrival to the United States. There are 10 national resettlement agencies across the U.S. It is important to understand that although they are called resettlement agencies, they do not provide the services themselves, but rather through a network of local social service agencies called resettlement affiliates, which actually provide all those services locally. Common Point Queens is a local New York City area affiliate of HIAS. HIAS, formerly known as the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, is one of the 10 national resettlement agencies, and has resettlement affiliates in many states. They're primarily Jewish Family Services, and here in New York City, it's Common Point Queens. One thing I also wanted to point out is we often call our refugee clients cases. This is not because we're heartless and heartless bureaucrats and don't see them as human. It's the just term of art in refugee resettlement. So all refugee families and individual cases are first assigned to the National Resettlement Agency, and then the National Resettlement Agency assigns those cases, those refugee families and individuals, to the local affiliate. Most often, they assign them to locations and to the local affiliates where refugees have friends and family. Next slide. Okay, so you can see that Common Point Queens helps refugees rebuild their lives and find welcome, safety, and opportunities. We help them integrate into their new communities the best we can. And we do so, as you can see, I'm skipping some of the text on the slide. The way we do it, we have 3 areas of programming. The first area is case management services. The second area is economic inclusion or employment programs and support. And the third area is volunteer services. We serve refugees from the following countries, as you asked earlier, Rob. I think Afghanistan, Ukraine, Guatemala, El Salvador, Venezuela, Myanmar, Syria, Sudan, Yemen, and many, many more countries. We provide services. We resettle people in the 5 boroughs of New York City, in Long Island, and in Westchester County. The major program that makes Common Point Queens a resettlement affiliate, an official vehicle of U.S. government in terms of receiving and resettling refugees, is the Reception and Placement Program. And that includes providing pre-arrival resettlement services and post-arrival resettlement services. And they're called initial resettlement services because they last only 90 days. This program is just a 90-day program when refugees are expected to be well on their road path to self-sufficiency, and they are expected to reach the following goals. It is expected that they will live in a safe, stable environment, which means they will have secure, affordable, forgetting the word, safe housing, that they will be able to navigate the systems and surroundings and situations and will be connected to means of ongoing support. What this means is that they will be able to be connected to know how to navigate the educational systems and transportation and employment systems, know what to do if there's a fire, or how to call 911 if someone is unwell, and many, many other things. So in 90 days, people are expected to be on their path to employment if they're employable, and really strive for self-sufficiency as soon as possible. And all the services are expected to be provided with a one-time payment of $1,275 per person. Clearly, this is not sufficient, so it takes a lot of effort and resources to really make this happen. And volunteer support is definitely one of the extremely important resources for people, not to just feel welcome in this country, but also to get the tangible support with learning English, getting employment, feeling welcome in the community, knowing how to borrow books from the library, and so on. So what specifically is required by the resettlement and by the RNP, Reception and Placement Program? We're required to prepare an apartment or a temporary housing for people when they come and arrive from the airport. We are, if they don't have permanent housing upon arrival, we help them secure permanent housing. We help them obtain Social Security numbers and cards, enroll them in public benefits, make sure they're referred to an English language program, undergo their health screenings, get connected to employment services, which we have in-house. We have several programs, and the kids are enrolled in school. School-age children are enrolled in school. It is also important to know that there's also ongoing cultural orientation on, I believe, 16 topics that are currently required by the State Department, but cultural orientation happens every day through the contact with community members and with volunteers and staff at Common Point Queens.